This is actually not an official board meeting. This is an official forum, but we're still going to call it to order so we can get started. The very first thing that I want to do is thank all of you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it so much. I know the board appreciates it. We look forward to your input. We look forward to this being an evening of information and dialogue. With that said, we don't have an agenda to approve, so we'll move right into it. And Mr. Cheeseman, thank you all again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. No problem. Thank you very much for being here this evening. First and foremost, I want to tell you that over the last few weeks, Snowden Elementary School has been such a great topic of conversation. And what I mean by that specifically is so many people have reached out to myself, to our Board of Education members, to our teammates about how much you love this school, you care about the school, and you care about the students of this school. And so initially, when an ORED study was released by our county commissioners, it really got us thinking as a Board of Education and as a school system, some of the information around facility use, what do we do with our schools, and how do we use them to the greatest of their capacity? Which then stemmed into another conversation of what does academic success look like? So in Beaufort County schools, and based off of state standards, Snowden Elementary School is considered a low-performing school. And when you look at those standards, we want to have the highest quality of education for our children. So considering that, let me start with this announcement, that grades 6 through 8, your middle school model, all right, so.
Sorry.
No problem.
All right.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test. Test, can you hear me?
Better?
All right, so considering, let me just start with this announcement. So your grade 6 through 8 middle school model for Snowden Elementary School will stay at Snowden Elementary School for the next coming year, which will leave you a pre-K through 8 model, which is exactly what you have. So the Board of Education has decided to retain the model that you have right now. So with that, I'm very excited to say that you will not see any type of change of your middle school grades 6 through 8 moving to Southside High School. So in short, you'll stay here. So considering we need to get to the root of the story then, and if we retain 180 students here, we have to do some things differently. And that's why we're going to ask you to come to the microphone tonight and help us brainstorm some ideas that we may not know, but you may know, especially as the community as Aurora. And so in short, let me just talk a little bit about where Snowden is and what it looks like. Well, first and foremost, when your children come to school here, I think the number one thing that you want is for your children to be loved. And I don't think that is a question whatsoever at Snowden Elementary School. I believe your children are loved from the moment they arrive to the moment that they leave. So with that, I really applaud all of your teachers and all of your personnel here, because I do believe your children are loved every day. The second part about that is I believe that your educators give it their very best. They give it their very best each and every day working with our students. But part of that concern is Snowden Elementary School, from what occurs on a day-to-day basis to what the end result looks like, they're not aligned. So you have an incredible effort from both students, faculty, staff, administration, and you have an incredible effort of students, but at the end of the day, your performance is low. And that's where we need to be together on what does it look like to change the performance of young kids. How do we do better in that regard? And so we as a board and we as Beaufort County Schools are starting to look at how do you make change. And so we're starting to look at our programs, we're starting to look at our staffing, we're starting to look at some of those other individuals who are in fact getting great results across the district of how do they come to Snowden and help us. So in short, we have some challenges. Now, for the last 5 years, Snowden Elementary School has been deemed low performing by the state of North Carolina. And that's not fair to our kids, and that's not fair to you either. And so the interesting part about that is each school does receive a letter grade by the state of North Carolina. You can go online if you have an opportunity, go to Google, type in North Carolina report cards, and look up your school. And part of that, you'll see over the last 5 years, your school is growing, but at short increments. Whereas it's been a D or an F for the last 5 years. In the last 3 years, it's grown by 1 composite point each year. And so right now you're at a 50, and that's a D. And ultimately on North Carolina report card, a 55 is a C. And the state looks at how well your kids grow versus how well they're actually proficient in the material they study. And so there's this whole formula that may not mean anything to anybody in any community across North Carolina, except it means everything to a school system when it comes to the education, what we provide, and how it's offered to our students. So considering how can we as a community stay together after August 27th of this school year, meaning the same energy, the same excitement that you have right now to keep the middle school model, can we all still come back together on September 1 and make sure that we're still supporting it in what we're trying to do? Can we get back together October 1st? Can we get back together November 1st? Meaning all of the support, can we keep working in this partnership? And that's what we're looking for. So when you have a pre-K through 8 model and 180 students, and your 8th grade class is going to have only 12 kids, you have to start doing something differently. And so again, we're going to start looking at school-based programs, staffing around that. What does your master schedule look like? How much time is allotted for interventions and remediation? And so we need to truly get back to looking at each individual child and how to educate each individual child. What do the resources look like? What does the money look like coming into the school in order to buy those resources? So there's a lot going on right now. But what I just want to make very clear is the consideration of moving Snowden was never a fiscal issue. It's always been an academic issue. And looking at what you can do with grades 6 through 8, that's what the original idea was. How do we put them in a place that gives them an excellent education and also focusing on Snowden as a true elementary model? But since we're going to keep them together, I need you to really think about something. Inside Snowden Elementary School, you actually have 3 models sitting in one school. You have a pre-K model, a K through 5, and a 6-8. So you have pre-K education, elementary education, and middle school education in one place. That is really hard, but that's the model you have. It's also seen at Northeast. It's also seen in Bath. So considering that, those models by research show that, believe it or not, you should have success in a K-8 model. 7-12 models across the country show that you could have success. It's that 6th grade through 12 model that shows you may not. And that's part of the reason, after doing research, we've decided to keep them here. So considering, we need to really think about what does each level of education look like. You have students that are more than 1 grade level behind in their reading. They may be more than 1 grade level behind in their math. But we need to start focusing on the education of these young people as they move up. The other part of that is, if you really want school change, we cannot social promote our students anymore. Meaning, if the students do not understand the standards and they don't make the grade and they don't understand the content, they need to stay and learn that content. And so how do we approach school is the real question. So as I get to the conclusion and start listening to your suggestions, please know our Board of Education is in full support of Snowden Elementary School as a pre-K through 8. But again, there's 3 models sitting on the inside of that. Also, our teachers, our educators, our district office, our community is very in support of Snowden Elementary School. But on a day-to-day basis, it's the question of what do we need to provide our students, what changes might we need, and that's why we're here today, to listen for any type of suggestion that might help you. Yep.
I am remiss, I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Carolyn Walker. I'm the current board chairman, and I'd like at this time for the rest of the board that could be with us tonight to introduce themselves, starting with TW.
TW Uncle Bell over there.
ECP Award.
Jerry Draper from Long Acre District.
Okay, and Dr. Bradley?
Dr. Bradley, I'm Chief Operating Officer.
Okay. We only have one or two board members that couldn't make it tonight. I hope that one is out of state. So I hope that it is a signal to you how much we care about this school and the community, and especially your students. It's very important to us that we do the right thing. Sometimes the right thing is very hard to understand when you're dealing with pre-K through 8th, but we're here to hear what you have to say. We'll let you, I guess, with a show of hands, who wants to come up and speak. I do ask you to limit it so that everyone that wants the opportunity will be granted, that opportunity, maybe 2 or 3 minutes each. And you have a microphone right there that I think is working. So who would like to go first? Okay. And if you would introduce yourself.
I'm Travis Midget, right here from the Aurora area. I understand that you guys had an ORED study to come through and evaluate everything. And from what I understand is that it was a lot of flaws in this ORED study. So if you saw flaws in this study, why are y'all continuing to carry this out if you know that there are flaws in it?
Well, let me respond to that if you don't mind. The study itself looked at total space in the building and total number of students. The study didn't actually identify the academics of what was going on in each building. So the flaw that actually happened was based off of class size law and also program laws, meaning that the researchers did not consider the specific laws around programs. They just basically took total number of classrooms divided by total number of kids or vice versa. So even though the program or the study itself may have been flawed in total percentage, total numbers, it did not address any type of academics. And that's why Snowden, we've been looking at Snowden as an academic issue, not an ORED study or financial issue.
Once you saw one flaw, you guys should have backed up. One flaw should have backed you guys up.
I think it did back us up.
Okay, now, moving kids do not educate kids. You can move them anywhere you want. That does not educate kids. So you guys gonna have to look at doing something different. Now, I would never agree with putting a 6th grader under the same roof with a 12th grader.
And I think we heard that comment and considered it and kept
so
them here.
I think that you guys need to take that as far as putting those kids with Southside. I think that should be taken off the table completely.
That's what I just announced. It is off the table.
All right.
Yeah, it's not on the table anymore, sir. So we're looking for suggestions that you may be able to give us that we could help with.
Good afternoon.
Hello, sir.
I'm Bishop Robert T. Brown,
Hello, sir.
former coach here at Aurora Middle School, splash teacher,
Congratulations.
and with the community have been an advocate for the school. Now, I was listening to what you were saying, some of the conditions in the 3 models that we have here at the school and all these different things.
Yeah.
My first question is, apart from statistics,
Right.
Raleigh, I could care less about stat folk because stat people very seldom come to visit this community to understand, in the rural community especially, why we go through the transitions that we do and the influx and the absence of kids in our communities. And we also know that we have our little surges, okay? I know for a fact that the teachers that have been at this school have been some dynamite educators, because 6 of mine came through here and all of them went to college, graduated. Every time for this school, it almost seems as if we either get folk that are on the way out the door, last stop, or young people getting thrown into the frying pan. So there's a level of trust that we very seldom have down here with the kids, with the teachers, and the teachers that we do have that stay, they love those kids and those kids love them.
Right.
Now, my question is, how much is driven with the sitting government in Washington as well? Not just the educational component of it and what's going on over here concerning the grades. How much is it a push for even the city of Washington, even though that's off the table now, to have more kids over there? Because we know this is a Title what school? More money to the city of Washington programs. South Side has always been pushed to the side in many ways. Where are you from, sir? Originally?
Penns Grove, New Jersey.
Who?
Penns Grove, New Jersey, across from Wilmington, Delaware, outside of Philadelphia.
Okay, see, down here, we tend to pull together in the rural communities. And there was something that you said, how you were looking for ways to teach each individual child.
Each individual student.
Now, we should be receiving teachers that know how to come up with methods to teach our children.
I agree with that.
That's been one of the issues.
Okay.
Okay? But every time we get outstanding teachers, we can't keep them, whether it's for pay or whatever it may be.
Sure.
But we lose some of the best teachers. And it makes no sense. Even when we had Ron Clark, everybody knows who Ron Clark is. Had a method for all kids, but we lost him. He had a greater calling in education. It starts with you guys making sure we get qualified teachers, not teachers trying to get their degrees.
Right.
Because that's what cheats our children.
Sure.
Okay? And that has been one of the problems we've had. It's easy to shut down and say, okay, we're going to, I know you said 3 minutes, but I'm going to let it out. You said that it's easy to shut a school down, but it's harder to build a school up. Once you start taking kids out of their communities, because there's always been an issue between Chocowinity and Aurora. There's always been an issue, and nobody on the Board of Education have seemed to be able to bring our two communities together. It's just like the issues with the north side of the river and the south side of the river. There's always an issue, and outsiders coming in may not even know that or know the history of how we keep getting withheld from good things in our community. I have a question, why is it that the Board of Education does not even ensure that Texas Gulf has a real living relationship with this community and this school? And not only that, why do we continue to allow our kids, everybody has their right to choose their schools of choice, but we've got a busload of children leaving out to go to Pamlico County.
So let me.
You're taking the kid. They're taking the kids out of the community. So when you talk about numbers going down, I believe you gave a magical miracle number of 180 that we will have to maintain. Was that what you said?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Say it again. I couldn't understand it. Say
If
that.
there is a miracle number of 180 that we have to maintain at this school,
No. It's not a miracle number. 180 is your current enrollment.
is the current enrollment.
There's no miracle number.
How many at Bath?
400 and some? Yeah, it's close to 500. Yeah, close
How
to
many at
500.
Chocowinity?
Same.
And it's like night and day when you leave from here, either to go to Chocowinity or to go down to Bath.
Right.
Okay?
So there's a couple things. Let me start by saying we're here today, and let's start today. That's the purpose of today. All right. Now, I can't tell you anything that happened before me. I can only take responsibility for where I am now. So here we are today to start this partnership, this relationship, and I can work on the Chocowinity Aurora that you talk about, but that will take time. To address your question about the busload of kids who leave to Pamlico, I do have a conference call with the superintendent in Pamlico to let her know that it is our desire to stop that. All right, so Miss Lisa Jackson, superintendent in Pamlico, knows that I'm going to have a conversation about that. Now, the key part about that is you have students leaving at their choice. And so how do we build programs here at Snowden in order to keep our students here? That's what I'm trying to listen for in terms of suggestions that the community might have. What are some of the other programs that you believe would keep children here as those excellent teachers that you're talking about would stay here? Now, why Ron Clark left and other people leave, I don't have those answers for you. However, I know that typically teachers leave for other opportunities. Sometimes people leave people, whatever it might be. But in short, that's what we're here to learn, is how do we keep our educators here? What can we do in the community of Aurora to help us keep our educators here? How do we build this partnership? But also, how do we address the issue with students leaving for Pamlico or any other place? That's
My
why we're
suggestion
here.
is to go back and do that statistical work and to see why they're leaving. Why they're leaving, because it makes absolutely no sense,
Right,
especially with the transition of principals at this school as well.
sure.
It's beyond reasoning, okay? So, and I also say that I don't know, I know EC, I know this gentleman here, amen, glory to God, but we got to make sure that when we elect folk to the Board of Education, that they have this area. I'm not saying that you all don't. Make sure it's just not their own area's interest. Because the Board of Education is for the whole of all the children in our counties, in our communities, right? So, and not only that, I'm going to sit this and say now, parents get more involved. Okay? Parents get more involved. It starts at home.
Thank you so much. And can I add? Thank you so much for those comments, and that's why we're here. No, come on. That's why we're here. I don't know how many forums you've had before tonight. Doesn't matter anymore. But we're here because we do care. And you see all the board members here. We're here because we do want to help you. We do want to find out why those students are leaving. And I'm asking you, as a community of parents and grandparents, I'm asking you to also find out. They are your neighbors. They attend your churches. They are your friends, and some of them may even be your relatives. That's a good question to ask. Why did you take your child out of Snowden? And what can I do to help you bring that child back? Because as a community and as a Board of Education, we are going to do everything we can to build this school back up. And as far as Southside, it is of my opinion, and I feel like I represent every single student and every single employee in Beaufort County, I think Southside has been a successful combination of Aurora and Chocowinity. We just saw their graduation on Saturday, and I've never seen a group of kids come from two different communities that love one another and support one another. So you should be proud of that. Be proud of your students that graduated, because they were absolutely wonderful. The support at that graduation was overwhelming for each other. So you've done a great job of combining with those Chocowinity students, and they've also done a great job. And we have Mr. Anderson here, their principal, and he's continuing to do everything he can to build up, that camaraderie. Now, sir, go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Ken Adams, S.W. Snowden. I just got one question. I want to get personal with you guys. How many of y'all on here have kids? Do y'all have kids? Put yourself in my situation. Man, y'all don't understand this. Y'all don't understand what we're going through here. I had kids. I grew up in this school. I grew up in this community. Y'all don't get it, man. I'm telling you. I think about my kids. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought about taking mine out and taking them to Pamlico. Because you don't know what's going on here. You know what's going on. You hearing this? We got intergrades, last week before last. Kids got to think about that. I got 3 kids coming through. I got a son that's in UNC Wilmington. He came through the school. There's nothing wrong with the school. Nothing wrong with the school. We got good teachers. Got good students. Got a good staff. Good teachers. I can't figure it out. What's going on? You gave my son an award over at the place in Washington, and Lewis Adams. The guy A and B honor rolls. My daughter, she got the best reading award this year. My middle daughter, A and B honor roll. We got good kids here. Got good teachers. Just trying to figure out what's going on. Are we trying to close the school?
No, sir. What we're actually trying to do is improve the education.
I'm emotional because I
don't
get it.
So there's a couple things when you look at it. For example, at the end of 12th grade, you want students to be able to graduate choice ready.
Yes, sir.
Now, take the tie off, take the jacket off, take my glasses off, let me be a dad. At the end of that, when my daughter graduates, she should be able to make a choice.
That's it.
All right? Does she want to go into a career right away? Does she want to go to college, 2 years, 4 years? Does she want to go to military? What does she want to do?
Right.
That's what you would like to see for your students. Now, when you and I were growing up, all we ever heard of was vocational or college. And then if you didn't do those, you went into a job, right? But now, the world has shifted. We just rely so heavily on those kids who can come out with the skill sets. These are going to be the people who actually fill those job roles that we need. And so considering you want them to have choices, great mastery of skills. They don't have to memorize every piece of content, but do they have the skill? So when you start looking at Snowden, and I won't give you all the stats, but stats do matter. Your students in science this year in one area performed almost, I believe it was second in the district in science.
Yes,
and that's something to be so proud of.
Oh, yeah. First. Yeah, we first, yes.
Won't argue it, but first for this moment. All right? But considering that, when you look at ELA, in one grade level, they were at 27.7%. There's a disconnect. And so when you're looking at students who can read and write, do mathematics, but think for their own, that's why I'm standing here, is what is it that Snowden needs to ensure? Now, here's the key part. You want students to be skilled in many areas when they graduate. You want them to have a high-quality education.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, you want them to be loved. But if they're loved with never mastering a skill, then they're loved sometimes on the street without choices.
No, I get it.
And so I've been in many places of the country. You have to teach our students skill sets. So considering that, what can we do in each of our classes? Now, when you talk about bringing high-quality teachers, we started looking at other programs to bring teachers down here. And I totally get what the previous person said about, lateral entry. I understand.
That's another thing.
But here's the part, and then this is just my own thinking. A lot of times people leave people, not necessarily organizations. So while I'm standing here, I'm asking the Aurora community to love our people at Snowden. Make it a place where they would never want to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the partnership that we need. Because at the end of the day, as a father myself of a child who's going to be in this district in August, absolutely, I want her to be loved first, but give her the skill set. And so what we're starting to look at is in each grade level at Snowden, how do you grow those kids? So at the end of, just as an example, at the end of first grade, did they grow a full year to second grade? But I can show you and all of you that there are some grade levels here that are not growing a full year. And then if you don't grow the full year next year, then your kids are up to 2 years behind. And research shows if you have 1 year of a bad experience, it takes at least 2 to get it back. And so what we're really trying to do is come into the Snowden and say, what do you need us? What do you need us to do?
Yes, sir.
Do we need more clubs? Do we need more programs? Do we need more individual time with kids? But even more importantly is, could I get a commitment from Snowden families that they would read 20 minutes a day with their child at home? It matters. 20 minutes a day is 1 million words at the end of a year. It matters what you do at home too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I hope we can get connected.
Well, it's just like we said in church, the ones that need to hear it, they're not here tonight.
You're right.
But,
You're right.
like I say, my kids, man, I tell them about, thought about moving to Pamlico, and they say they don't want to leave. They love the school.
Right, and we want them to stay. But
they love the school, man.
When you talk about
kids don't want to leave.
When you talk about the parents who aren't here, how do we adopt those parents with the ones who are here? And that is key. How does everyone in the room now reach out to another parent they know weren't here tonight and say, hey, we've got to get a partnership here?
But like I say, look around. You see, man, people care.
Absolutely.
We care.
Absolutely. I don't think there's
in here. We got,
there is no challenge to that. I
good
agree
community.
With you. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Good community. And,
absolutely.
I just hope we can. I got sons, daughters want to go to college. They want to do things with their life, and I like for them to do it here.
Right.
And I know that you know EC, but I want you to know that there's not a board member at either one of these tables that wouldn't be more than happy to receive your phone call, your visit,
Yes, sir.
your
Yes,
input.
ma'am.
We really do want to hear from you. We really do want to.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm an emotional person. I just don't. I don't know what we need to do, but like I say, just look around. These folks care. Everybody care.
Any of you that are standing want to find a seat, you would know.
So, Mr. Adams.
And thank you. Yes, sir.
When you talk about people leaving, we need to find out why.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, as the employer, they don't tell us why because they're not obligated to.
Well, my reason was for the uncertainty.
Yeah, but you can help
us. My
us.
kids don't. They don't want to go anywhere.
But here's the thing: is you can help us learn why, and that's why we're here.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Really appreciate your candor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenaria Jeanette, and I have been with the Aurora schools probably since 1946. I graduated from an Aurora school. I've had 7 children to go through these schools. I put in 28 years for the Board of Education as a lunchroom manager. I live in this community. I shop in this community. You wonder how, right? I do a lot of ordering from catalogs. So my recreation is in this community. You want to know why? I love to fish. So I'm familiar with this community in all ways. I'm also familiar with a dead plant. I like a lot of plants. If you have a plant that's dead, you don't throw the plant away. You start working on the root of the plant. If your house is falling, you don't tear the whole house down. You start working on the root, the foundation of the house. You work with what you have. Okay, you don't have many students, right? You get money and bring in small programs. The money, whatever money you have, put it to use in building up this school. Why send it to another community? Why send it to Chalkawinity? Why send it to Bath or wherever? Use what money you have where you are, and people will come. We've all heard, if you build something better, people will come. This school used to be full and thriving. We had programs, we had beta clubs, we had all of these things. You're really making it sound like a witch hunt. And I don't like to say that, but it sounds like a witch hunt for the Aurora schools. Whenever anything come up, the Aurora School, bam, is always on the first list. Same thing with Southside. School, we're going to build a new school. Let's build it in Chocowinity. Instead of using what you have. I don't understand that. I cannot understand that. Work with the children you have. Other children will come. Keep these children here. Work with these children. How good, dedicated teachers. My daughter-in-law is the national president of the NCEA. She's all in Arizona and everywhere working with low-performing schools, getting schools up together. She's never been invited here. She has asked, can I come and help? Because she graduated from here. She graduated from the Aurora schools. I know people who graduated from the Aurora schools doing big things, making big movements. So why not work with this school? Why not find smaller programs if that's what it takes to put in the schools? Why? It shouldn't take much money because you don't have many students, right? So what money you have, use it to the good of the people who are here. When people who are here make progress, other people will see they are making progress, and they may come back to our schools. As my pastor always says, I think it's as simple as that, to build up this school and see can't you draw other people in, instead of moving our children to where extracurriculums are. Why not bring them to them? Why move them all the way to Chocowinity so they can be on a soccer team or so they can play basketball or whatever? Bring a basketball team here. If it's not, find enough students to play. Work with what you have. Work with what we have here in Aurora and watch this grow. That's what I feel like. And instead of making a witch hunt out of the smaller schools and then see what happened, then it starts looking like a racial thing. You know, well, it's a lot of black kids down there. It's more black kids than anything. So let's just move this school. Let's just change this school. And anybody else might be afraid to say it. But a lot of us think that because it's predominantly a black school. So they're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, people have a tendency to think that. I think that. And I've been retired over probably 20-some years. But I sit back and I read in the newspaper, I read on social media and all those other places what they are doing to the schools. And I'm like, my God, when are they going to leave our black kids alone? And I'm just being honest with you. So I think we ought to work with what we have and see can we draw more students into this school instead of having to get up 5:30 in the morning and ride so-and-so to school. You know, you're already tired and give out when you get there. You don't want to do anything. You're supposed to start your day in a fresh way.
Sure.
And I'm wondering why the board and the people who are concerned, the people who do these things, who make these movements, I wonder why they are not thinking down that line. Our kids give out from moving back and forth to school, and it's been, 40-some years probably since I've had a child here. But I mean, I just look at the other kids, and I really think you ought to start thinking about that, see can you find some kind of extracurriculums to bring to this school. Thank you.
So if you don't mind me responding to it. You know, I think she brings up several great points, if you don't mind me commenting. And there's a couple things to consider. I think it's okay to talk about race. I think you need to talk about it more. And having been a superintendent in a different place and having worked in major cities across this country, I think sometimes people are scared to talk about it. But in reality, when you look at your students here in Snowden, and you do have a majority of students of African American descent, well, specifically, what are the challenges that students are having? And even more so is how can we change their instruction to be more culturally based versus just standards based? Meaning, do our kids connect with what's being taught with them? And those are conversations that we need your help with moving forward. So I do appreciate that you brought that up, and I look forward to having greater conversations around it.
Hello, my name is Carla Fleming. I'm a grandmother with a very active mother for one little boy. I want to thank you all for being here. Up and foremost, I know that everybody has things that they could be doing, and I appreciate you being here. Being raised military, you never have a problem if you don't have a solution. You can't go and tell somebody a problem but don't know how to fix it. So I'm only going to give you some things that I think are problems, but I'm going to give you some solutions.
Thank you.
Okay? So one of the problems is we're vast and wide rural population that comes to this school. So rural that a lot of our students do not have internet access at all, no Wi-Fi. They can text their friends. I think you can text without, I don't know, I'm not really good at that. But anyway, so they don't have access after school. They do have access here. But once they leave this building, they have no internet access. So keep that in mind or write it down, whatever you've got to do. That's one thing. And that's nothing that you can take care of for a rural area, okay? But when we had a grant for Splash, which was our after-school program, there was enough funding there that you ran the buses at 3 o'clock for those kids who didn't stay, and then you ran it again at 5 o'clock and took all these precious babies home. But in those 2 hours that they were here, guess what they had access to? Internet, that they could do their homework, teachers that could help them. And with a change in the Splash focus to be on academics more than we're staying after school and getting a snack, and I know they work really hard, y'all, on academics, but what I'm saying is if you focus it on, hey, these children don't have to miss their resource class during the school day to get on the internet to do their homework before they leave and miss out on art and PE and all those other things they have to give up to go to tutoring to get on the internet to do their homework. Now, I may be way off base. Somebody please tell me if I'm way off on this. Okay? Am I off? What I'm saying is, such a wide area, population-wise, a lot of people do not have internet at home. Anybody who does not have internet at home? Do you know anybody who does not have internet at home? Students that suffer because they cannot get on the internet to do their daily, what is it we do when in the news, current events. Can't do that. Can't get on the internet. Don't have cable TV. But they do have all that heat. We lost our Splash grant. We don't have that in school anymore. We have no daycares in the area that take school-age children, do we? We do. Where? We do have one? We do. Three that take after-school kids? Okay, I'm wrong on that. But what I'm saying is, this building is the core of the community. If we can keep it open and get our Splash grant back there, get funding for a program where these children can be in classes and know when class school is over, I'm going to get on the internet and I'm going to be able to have the same opportunity to learn as a child that does have internet at home. That's one. Okay? Problem, we don't have internet at home for all our students. We can't do that, but we have to. Can we stay open? Can we get that grant back? Can we get the funding back for after-school programs? Can we run our buses again? Okay? The other thing is communication. And with the model that you said that we have preschool, elementary, and middle school, I think the communication here at school with a student, I know my grandson comes in and says, hey, we're on a field trip on Tuesday. We're like, what? You're going, are you going on a field trip? Well, we're close enough to all the teachers. We get on the phone and we say, hey, Jackson going on a field trip Tuesday? No, that's elementary school. Oh, it's not us at all. We were trying to figure it all out. So communication is be greatly improved from knowing which part is us and which part is he's going to be in 7th grade. So he's going to be affected by the decisions made today. Getting to school on time. Can't keep the bus drivers in the routes going. Sometimes he gets picked up at 7:05. Sometimes he gets picked up at 7:35. If he gets picked up at 7:35, he's going to be late because we're not finished with the route. So we elected to drive him to school so he can start his day off on time. I can't do that for the rest of it. And I shouldn't have to do it at all. But for him, it ruins his day when he walks in his missed half of class. So to get the bus drivers, is there an incentive, a financial incentive, to encourage bus drivers to drive this rural route? I don't know how it works. I'm just asking. What can we do? Children don't come to school to learn. They come to school every day. There's going to be something to motivate them. And some students want to learn and want to do well, but I'm saying, what's their magic carpet? I went through with my 2 girls, cheerleading, ice skating, chess club, horses, 4-H, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, piano lessons, trying to figure out what it was that kept them going and want to come to school. We have to have more of that. The population doesn't fulfill those roles. You've got 12 and you want to have a debate team and only 5 are interested, you can't compete with them. So you miss out. So the school's eliminated from going to having a debate team or a math team or a science team or a robotics team in the middle school level because, I don't know, I guess because not enough students. I don't know why those things didn't exist. The elementary levels do. They have more students to pull from. So whenever you're working with a real small population of students, you're cutting your own cloth is what Grandma used to say. You're ruining your own clothes. I want the children to have opportunities for academics, internet. I think the teachers do a wonderful job. But I know a 7th grade student right now who's really limited at home. Her mother has some issues, her father's absent, she has no internet, she has isolated, she gets on the bus at 10 minutes to 6, to be here on time already, and try to motivate her. So, after school programs, busing, internet access, the kids can meet after school for those clubs. If we could get the incentive to make it worth the while for adults to stay 12 hours a day instead of 10, that's hard. Hire people to come in, get Splash, have people they hire to come in the afternoon, is that right? Certain people came in at 3 o'clock to run Splash. We lost that. How many people want Splash back? Anybody want Splash back? After school program? It's hard to get anybody to say.
In support of your teachers, they just have very long days.
They do,
And anytime I think a lot of teachers are here at 6:30, 7 o'clock to prepare, so ask all them to stay till 6:30 or 7 in the evening. It's a very long day, so it does take extra volunteers. And sometimes the word volunteer is scary because that means you're not going to get paid. But as a community, you get those volunteers to be part of that program.
Well, that grant did pay people. It did pay them.
Get started again and not wait for another grant. It takes volunteers.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming.
That are committed.
Good afternoon, school board.
Hey, sir.
Good afternoon, town of Aurora. My name is W.C. I am the town commissioner here in Aurora. I graduated from this school. I've been hearing a lot of different comments as far as where the school was then and where it is today. I agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier that this school today is not like it was when I was coming here. A lot of things have changed since the time that I've been going to school here versus where they are now. But I would like to say to the board and I would like to say to the people that came out today, it's like the superintendent said, this is the beginning. We open up and we talking about our issues, trying to do what we can for our kids. But I'm not forwarding the blame on the school board. I'm not forwarding it on the town, the Beaufort County commissioners. We all play a role in our children's education. And it's time for us to come together, meaning the board, meaning the people here in this room, town commissioners. You look around right now, you probably have more people who don't even have kids in school that's out here today. We have a responsibility. We want to throw the blame on an individual. We need to point fingers at yourself. So I'm not talking just to this board. I'm talking to the people that is in the sound of my voice. There have been programs just in the last 10 years since I have been back here that I've been trying to create, the community garden, the splash like the lady was talking about. But one of the major problems that we have is transportation in Aurora. We got the STEM program going on in Washington at the airport. They built a nice facility. They got robotics going on, and I'm on the board. But I can't get no kids from Aurora to go to this program because of transportation. So again, I'm talking to everyone in the sound of my voice. We all got to step up. I'm talking about the churches. I'm talking about the pastors. I'm talking about leaders. We got 4 commissioners here in this town and a mayor. I don't know whether John is here. We got 2 commissioners here today. I say Mr. Boot back here. We got 1 town Beaufort County commissioners. We put these people in these positions, and we should be able to go and talk to these people and tell them what we want. So we all got to come together and come out, talk to the parents. We got parents right now. We got less parents here right here today, and all these other people out here caring about the school. But what are we doing? What are we doing? So again, I'm asking you, the biggest one I see right now here in our world, we need transportation. We got some non-profit organizations who want to do things, but we need transportation for the people down here in Aurora to get to Washington, Chapel, Wellington, and these other places. Okay. And again, to these parents, people of Aurora, we put these people in places, and we need to step up and come to these meetings and voice this to the people who's supposed to be doing what they can for Aurora. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Anthony Tyree.
Hey,
I'm actually from here. I graduated in this very building right here. Sorry. All right, so. Oh, that's fine. I should be good here, right? All right. All right, so when I came back here, one of my main focuses is treatment, all right? I'm a licensed therapist, and what I see here a lot is we put a lot of responsibility on people who have not been trained for the responsibility that they're there for. We have folks who are trying their best to fill those gaps. I guess the question is there anything coming to this side of the river to assist with the other issues that we have here? Such as, again, as everybody has said, schools have changed, times have changed. As our community fights on substance use and things of those natures, the kids are the one that's suffering. So I always tell this story. There was a child that went home on Friday. When he got home on Friday, put his books away, had a great night. Between Friday night and Saturday morning, there was an issue at the home, right? The parents were taken away. Grandmother had to come and take the child, right? Now we're looking into Saturday afternoon. The main focus that day was getting mom and dad out of jail, right? Now we're looking into Saturday night. The parents come home on Sunday. Now it's time to take the child from grandma's house to mom's house. Now we got to get the child ready for school on Monday. When the child comes to school on Monday, we want the teachers to take responsibility for the child not having what he's supposed to have. But in fact, there's so much more stuff there. So while you're asking me about my homework, nobody even asked me if I ate yet. Nobody asked me, am I traumatized from anything that happened as I watched my parents go into the back of a cop car. So at the end of the day, once he comes to school, that child might be an issue that day. He might be a handful. What are we going to do to assist, and especially when it comes to our grandparents who are trying to raise their grandchildren in a new age?
Sure.
Who's here to help that part out, right? As well as kids are being exposed to things that at a faster rate, at pre-K through 8th grade, in an area that may be suffering from different substance uses. Children are watching that. I don't have the numbers right now of how many overdose issues that we've had in the past 30 days, but the majority of those individuals have children. And if the children aren't with them, guess who they're with? The grandparents, who are just trying to fill in so their children aren't taken away. And then we want them to come to school and perform.
Right.
How do we bridge that gap?
So, Anthony, let me respond to that. First of all, that is something that you see not only in Aurora, but all across our great country. But let's talk about Aurora. All right. So I'm excited to tell you that Beaufort County Schools is one of 3 counties in the state of North Carolina that in culmination received an $8 million grant. It's a 5-year grant. It's called Project Aware. We're now about to start year 2, as year 1 is a setup year. In that grant specifically, it is for 2 directors of Beaufort County Schools to work closely around the wellness of students, meaning that they would provide professional development and receive professional development from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and other agencies to come in and work with our school officials, our school teachers, our teacher assistants, our nurses, our counselors, to really identify what you're talking about, the wellness of children. And quite frankly, it is very hard, especially when children are on buses for a long time, and also come from what you may say is a broken experience over the weekend, to then come in and focus at their very best when they're tired, they're hungry, and maybe the school is their greatest shelter. And so in my experiences of Chicago and Philadelphia and Charlotte and Oakland and Sacramento, I can tell you this very school is the foundation for how kids live.
Right.
Meaning they want to come here because it may be their safest zone of proximity. So considering that, how we're first addressing it, starting at the end of August, we have that grant, Project Aware, that will start working with the educators of Snowden Elementary and our other schools around looking at the warning signs, but also starting to look at how we deal with student, but not just student, adult trauma also. So that will be new.
So out of that grant, because if I'm not mistaken, we had 1 social worker for the county last year. So with that being said, I think we picked up 2 more. One or 2 more. One
still
more.
have 1 for the county, and other things may be side funding.
Right.
But
so
you only have 1.
Is there a way that we can assist our leadership in the community with ensuring, once we have other social workers or counselors or whatever come on board, that we can have one down here to address the issues that we have? And I say we have, and I get it. It's across the board. However, in rural North Carolina, in rural Aurora, a lot of people think of Aurora as the town. But we know, the people that are from here, Aurora consists of the outlying places as well that are sometimes forgotten, like our South Creeks and our West Roads and those type of places. So again, I think in order to help us perform better, we need a little bit more help and support on those issues as well.
Absolutely. And that's something we can start with. Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Stuart Ham. I pastor a church here in Aurora, and I live in Chocowinity. 75 to 80% of my time is here in Aurora, and a lot of questions that I had, it was asked and it was answered. And one of the main concerns was hearing about the movement of the middle school, in which the gentleman here answered the question in your first comment, and I'm glad that you've taken that off the table.
Absolutely.
Because I am not in support of that at all. You've got a lot of kids in church that attends this school. I graduated from this school. This is my hometown. And And my last question that was going to ask, which was asked about the Splash program.
Yes, sir.
I know that was missing this year, and that is something that I would love to see come back. And areas where money is needed to carry out new programs, I'm hoping that you will be able to release some to the point where these programs can come and benefit our kids. And so that's all I have to say.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank
you. Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
Good evening, sir.
How's everybody doing? I'm Avon Moore. One time, years ago, I used to be the youth director around here. I had plenty of things for the children to do after school. But I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm talking about now, you said that it's off the table for the coming year.
Moving forward.
Should be off the table for the coming year.
Meaning we're not moving them next year.
What afterward?
I don't think that's even been a thought.
You hadn't gotten that far, huh?
No, I mean, that discussion has never even come up. So my understanding is we're going to try to run the school the way it is.
And then you ask the question, ask people around you why everybody's going to the charter school.
Sure.
It's not just that charter school. It's Pamlico School. It's Pongo. How many private schools that they are attending? Why? Obvious. The level around here had gone down to that point where concerned parents and students wanted to get themselves in a condition where they can have the adequate things that will cost them to go to college.
Sure.
But why? They should be able to be home here. Just like you said, programs that's needed here. The old people used to say, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. So you need some other thing that will enhance education. Not just bang, bang, bang book.
Right.
I heard the lady speaking about the computer issue. A lot of people don't have the computer.
Right.
We looking for you to not just ask us questions, but we're looking for you to come up with solutions and present to the community. That's why y'all getting paid big bucks. Thank you.
That's it. Nice. Thanks for pointing at me. I appreciate it. You know what?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello. Rhonda Stallings. I have a grandson that goes to this school.
Hey, Ms. Stallings.
You asked earlier what you as a board could do to help the children here.
Sure.
Okay, I have been volunteering here this year. But I also know that there are grandchildren and children. Rhonda Stallings. Rhonda?
Sorry, keep going.
Okay, I wasn't here. I didn't have children grow up to this school, but my children, when we moved here, went to Southside. They're talking about the after-school programs. If you need volunteers, are you willing to train those volunteers? Because I can tell you, as a parent of 30-some-year-old children and having to help teach a 6-year-old this year, it was very challenging. Everything has changed.
Yes, it has.
Since I went to school, they went to school, and I think a lot of the people in the community that are raising their grandchildren are having the same issues. So I would step up and help volunteer, but I think there needs to be some additional training for the volunteers and maybe get more people involved after school to help the children that are falling behind.
I would agree with that. We can definitely work on that. Thank you very much. Any final comments, Ms. Walker?
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Can I just take it off the mics there? Yeah. Okay.
Let me do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Look, how many years have Snowden went without a math teacher?
5.
How many?
5. Maybe 3.
Okay.
But I'm guessing it's 3 to 5.
Okay, listen to this.
5? Miss
Senator
Windman.
Snowden went 5 years.
I think it's 5.
6 years without a math teacher. Why? Why did this happen? Listen to this. Now we cannot let people come before us and hoodwink us. This is a college state. People graduating every year, thousands, and they are looking for jobs. There's no excuse for you to neglect this school and not put a math teacher here.
I got it.
Now, wait a minute. I don't know what your guidelines are for hiring. But somewhere down the line, we failed.
Why is he on?
Now you asking why the kids are leaving. But our school has been neglected. We didn't have a math teacher here. You got to have math. That is an important subject.
Correct. I got it.
Now, how many times have this board or anybody else approached the parents that had let their children leave here? How many times have you asked them why? How many times? When you let one kid fail, we fail. Now, I've been out here to this school, and he's already quoted several times that the school is improving. It's time for us to get on board with this improvement. Now, we say we ain't improving fast enough. We didn't get this way overnight. We didn't get this way in 1 year. Ask them what the score was back in, 2014? What was the score?
You were in the 40s. You were in the 40s.
Now we're coming up. We got to continue to rise. It's time for this board to come through here. ORAD shouldn't have had to come through here and do no county evaluation. This board should have been doing it. They should have come through here. We have a problem at this school. And it sounds like Southside got a problem at theirs. This board, do your own stuff. Get out here and find out why the parents want to take their kids away from home. It's time for some answers. And if they take them out, they get satisfied somewhere. We need to talk more about the improvement of these kids. Talk about the reading. I've been out here. It's something going on. I see the teachers working diligently. They're working hard. They love these kids. Parents, teachers send letters home. You don't respond. You have to respond. Come out, visit your students' class, let them know you care. Now I came out here one day to visit my daughter, and I stood to the door, peeking through the glass, and I saw a young man throw a ball across the classroom. And when it went to my daughter, she threw it across the classroom. And I walked in the door. And I told her, I'll see you when you get to the house. If you come out here and check on your kids, they will do better. They will do better. That is your job. Make 2 visits a year. Make 2 visits a year. Peep in on it. And you will send a message to the teacher and the student at the same time. But I still say that this is a college state. And there's no excuse. You can't give me an excuse why we should have went without a math teacher for 6 years. You can't give me that excuse. That is pitiful. It's your job to make sure every school in this town is staffed up properly.
So, Mr. Midget, you'll be excited to hear that we've hired a math teacher this year. And
yield my time.
And we are. And let me just make a quick correction. First of all, Ms. Winley and others have done a nice job of trying to fill in for math. You have had math teachers over 5 years. They've transitioned in and out. But part of that, too, is we have looked at the urgency around that, and we've actually hired a high-quality math teacher who will be coming to Snowden next year, meaning this August. The other part of that, too, is we are looking at staffing the district, and we need to be mindful of how many positions the state gives us in order to staff our schools accordingly. So we are looking for high-quality teachers. I'm not making any excuse, but sometimes you have lateral entry teachers due to teacher shortages in the state and across the country. So sometimes you do get teachers in the school system who are still learning how to be a teacher as they're teaching. But with that, I do want to say to you, we have hired a high-quality math teacher who will be here on the first day of school.
One thing that you can do in this school, we need more male presence in this school because it brings discipline.
Yes, and also,
that our female teachers are doing a great job. They are. But you need more male presence in these schools where there are a lot of these knucklehead little boys. You have to get them in. My boys are doing knuckleheads.
sure.
Okay? He can't cheat his own exhibit.
Right.
So I'm saying you need to get more male presence down there. You'll start seeing more things come back and forth.
Well, if you don't...
But there has to be a new order.
Sure.
Every school in our county needs a mail present.
But I'm not speaking about everybody else. I'm talking about this school because we've seen it decline. We've seen it decline in mail presents in this school.
Yeah, I see.
And it puts more pressure on our sisters here in this school to teach. And they're outstanding. But some things you require some mail presents.
All right, so
Good evening, everybody. If I may.
give me 1 second real quick. So to respond to you, sir, real fast, we're going to need help with outreach. That is something that, yes, Aurora needs. And if you don't mind me respectfully taking it one step further, we need to diversify our employment in terms of all of our teachers and our TAs. And considering that, if we can actually meet somewhere, I can come back down. But our school system needs help with outreach in terms of identifying candidates who will apply for those positions. Because, in fact, I typically can hire from those who apply. And so there are rules of that practice. But with that, I look forward to speaking with you about how we can do some outreach together. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I have some real concerns based on the information that I heard earlier. My name is Donald Brown. I addressed a couple of points. From the historical perspective, this is S.W. Snowden Elementary School. Who was S.W. Snowden?
He was a principal from the 1940s.
He was an African-American male. Okay, yes. This school has a lot of history, cultural pride. You know, even before integration, the community made sure that education was a real prime element to advance the African-American community. S.W. Snowden was one of the persons who made sure that that was a priority in our community. Sure. So when you're talking about closing schools, consolidating schools, you have to consider the historical and the cultural perspectives, okay, that we cannot afford to lose. But I have a real concern about what I just heard. How can you say a student has successfully achieved the academic standards set out by the Board of Education of Beaufort County when you had a math teacher absent for 5 years? Seemed to me that they have failed the students, and the parents got a basis to sue the Board of Education for failing to provide the academic requirements. As a former educator and administrator, I know you cannot say a student graduated successfully and completed the academic requirements without having a central subject presence and a teacher to teach math. That's just not, this kid did not, if it wasn't a math teacher, then they didn't get that information. They didn't get the subject. So how could they successfully achieve the academic requirements and say that they can move on to the next grade? For 5 years, that's a real concern. The other piece that I have is a major concern is you have a major industry right here in Aurora, nutrient phosphate, formerly PCS, formerly Texas Gulf. It's a foreign corporation that is doing a lot of damage to Beaufort County. Water, all kinds of stuff. Why are the county commissioners allowing them to go by and not be good corporate citizens? If you got a $60,000 budget shortfall, why don't you call on nutrient phosphate to step up to the plate and be a good corporate citizen? There's no reason why you need to talk about the dollars that's already present here. You got to make these people be responsible, the corporate citizens and everyone. It's the job of the Board of Education, it's the job of the county commissioner to ensure that these issues are dealt with properly. And finally, I'd just like to say that the community do have a responsibility. You got a responsibility to do exactly what you're doing now, and you have to stay on it. And if they fall short to say that they cannot provide the education for the students here in Aurora, you've already talked about the burden that it would be for the parents to take elementary kids, busing them several miles away, getting up early. We know what that is. You cannot allow that. We've seen it in cities all over the country. So why are you going to repeat something? There's enough studies out here to show the impact of busing, the negative impact of it, when you can get the information right here in the community. So we have a responsibility to challenge the corporate citizens to be good citizens, to challenge the elected officials, the citizens, and everyone to make sure that the education is provided, and that when you say that a student has successfully completed the academic requirements, you cannot lie
and pass them on, because that student is going to be hurt years down the road.
I agree with you.
And that's too much of that. That's my concern.
I agree with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. All right.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Kathy Newman. I retired from Snowden last August. Most of the people in the audience knows me. Several of the board members know me. I have been with Snowden many, many, many years. I've traveled. I was at Southside when it opened. I was at Aurora High School. I was at Southside when it opened. I went to the county office. I was with federal programs. And then I was with finance, and now I came back to Snowden. Well, when it was Aurora Middle School, I came back. So I've been with this Snowden building since it's been built, 11 years. And out of those 11 years, I'm not sure how many times I've seen some of the board members come in and visit just to visit. I know that Mr. Williams came several times, and of course EC pops in, but the other ones, I don't remember seeing you come just to pop in unless it was a tour arranged by the board. So, come and see them. Come and see them, ask them what they need. And speaking of that, we have and I'm still calling it we because I'm still part of Snowden, we have a very small staff that seems to be getting smaller. We don't have the people that the other schools have to do the jobs and spread out the jobs. That's one of the reasons you're losing some of your good teachers. They're just flat overworked. They have to teach the class. They have no assistant. People in other parts of the county have assistants. These teachers that are teaching the same grades don't have assistants, all because of ADM. Well, you know what? Step up to the plate. Give them what they need. Come ask them what they need. Give us an administration that stays the same. Out of the 11 years that I was in this building, I've had 7 principals. People used to ask me when I was going to retire, and I tell them, I have 2 more principals to go. And they're going, what do you mean? I said, I get a new principal every 2 years. So, I shouldn't be counting my years to retirement by how many more principals. And that goes way back. When my son, he graduated in 1996, when he was at Aurora High School, the 4 years he was at the high school, he had 3 different principals. It is just a revolving door for us in Aurora to have principals, either new principals to the system, or principals you want to get rid of. So, give us a good principal, keep our good principals here. Don't move them on to another Beaufort County school. Teachers can't work without a consistent administration. And this grant program you said that we're getting for the awareness for students?
No, ma'am. It's a wellness grant.
A wellness. Okay,
yeah,
a wellness grant. Sounds wonderful. But whose back are you going to put that on? The teachers.
No, ma'am.
You're going to train the teachers to deal with it.
No, what we're doing is it's an actual grant. We're one of 3 counties in the state, ourselves, Cleveland County, and I believe Stanley County. This is where district personnel will bring training in to help teachers recognize trauma in their classroom.
Okay, once they recognize the trauma, what are they going to do?
Learn how to respond to it in the class.
Learn how to respond to it. Learn how to deal with it without any other help.
Do you have a solution?
Well, maybe put, like someone said, another psychologist, someone we can call and get them on campus immediately.
So we've had a psychologist position advertised for at least 6 months. And what I'm saying is, I agree with everything you're saying, but if I don't have people apply, that's where I need help with the outreach.
Right.
All right, so everything you're saying I agree with, and we need to have more connection of outreach. And the school psychologists, the counselors, the wellness, that's something that State Superintendent Mark Johnson and the State Board of Education is earmarking more money for, to make those positions attractive for people to come out of their other professional worlds and into the world of education. So I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, and back to let's give us some more help. What about the assistants? We had 2 kindergarten classes and they had to share an assistant.
And that's where we're very excited that our county commissioners listened to our plea and funded another $375,000 of our budget in order to hold 8 teacher assistant positions. So we're very excited about that opportunity for next year. So we do thank our county commissioners for helping us with that.
Okay, well, I'd like to see some of it come this way, and our teachers wouldn't have to do as much. One teacher has more than one job.
I recognize that.
And like when I was working, I had 3 jobs.
So, as a former teacher of 14 years, I completely agree with everything you're saying.
Okay. Well, I hope
get it.
it shows in how Snowden gets funded next year.
Well, and I need you to recognize that based off of your federal and your state allocations, Snowden is funded at the maximum amount on all of the funding scales.
I understand federal and state. Like I said, I've been there. But I also understand there's other monies that can be funded.
There's local dollars, and we're hoping our commissioners continue to help us with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can't hear you. It was $556,000 on the shortfall, but we believe that we have a plan that
500,000, 552,000.
556.
Okay, so is that the major issue that's on the table as why you want to consolidate because of the budget shortfall?
This has not. We're not talking about consolidation, sir. We're talking about the academic status of Snowden. The fiscal issue is not related to Snowden. We're talking solely academics of how do you take a low-performing school out of low-performing. This is not a budget conversation here. This is this is a conversation about how do you allow kids to master their skills moving from grade level to grade level so as a whole the school of Snowden will come out of low-performing. And the reason I say that to you is if you're low-performing consistently year after year, then there are implications that come down from the state on that. Now, you're not right there on the border, but this is not a fiscal concern.
Yeah, but if you don't have a math teacher, how do you expect, excellent...
Well, that's part of the concern that's the outreach piece I go back to is how do we get high-quality professional educators to apply for the positions? How do we identify them? How do we get them here? So it's a greater outreach network that we're going to need. We're going to need to partner with your community, partner with the faith-based groups, partner with parents and community, businesses, but it has to be a greater effort than a principal who is trying to find people to come to a school. It's a greater effort than just the district advertising. We have to go places and sometimes bring people here.
Okay, had you considered a charter as an alternative?
Considered what?
Charter.
A charter school? No, sir. As a public institution, you do not change to a charter school, sir.
No, I understand, but I'm saying rather than closing, that's an option, is it not?
No, sir. There's not a conversation of closure here, and I would never advocate for Snowden Elementary to become a charter school because we love our students in the public education world. So no, I'm not asking for any charter ever.
Okay.
Now, just so you have knowledge, when you talk about money, Beaufort County Schools does send money to 8 different schools of where our kids go to. That does include charter schools, private schools, academies, whatever that might be. But this is not a fiscal issue about a school closure. This at Snowden is how do you improve the quality of education, how do you help us provide resources to our teachers, and how do you attract adults, males, diverse backgrounds to come here and have a better quality of education. And that is not judging any teacher. That is saying we recognize you need more. And that's why this board is here.
What kind of incentive packages do you have to attract the males that you say is needed?
That's a great question. So
you got to consider.
Federal Title II dollars allow us to provide incentives, but there are thresholds on it. And honestly, that's what we're looking at around your math positions, science positions, EC positions, and hard to find positions. So yes, those are things that are on the table right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think you're good.
You have one more?
All right, so
We're going to let this be the last one.
I got you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mr. Cheeseman and the board, appreciate y'all coming, but I do have a couple of questions. I want to follow up on something you said.
Sure.
And sometimes I get mixed up and my mind goes somewhere, so I may miss, so I wanted to ask the question. The social worker, do you say you've been looking for one for 6 months?
No,
now?
sir. What I said is the individual asked about a school psychologist, and that's been advertised for quite some time, as it's very hard to get school psychologists to come out of the medical field and into the education field.
Okay.
But yes, we're actively seeking one.
Okay. And I also believe that if you got a problem, you give a solution. So is it possibly you can contract that out? Because I know we contract a lot of things out.
We actually do contract
You
the
do contract
services now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. My next question, Mr. Oliver, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. One of my former jobs was emergency medical services. So I'm putting you on the spot. So in emergency medical services, they give you training with command, especially if you are an officer, commanding officer.
Yeah.
In that training, you send your resources based off the issues. Right. So in this case, with Aurora being an academic issue for so many years, could we move our resources? Because, I mean, the school system is pretty big. What kind of resources are we moving to support this school to get where we need to be?
Yeah, so you look at resources based really in 3 areas. So number one, you look at your staffing and your personnel, right, the years of their experience, the licensure that they have, meaning what are they legally allowed to teach from the state of North Carolina based off of their qualifications.
Okay.
The second part of that is you look at your programs. What is it that kids need to learn, defined by the state, and how do they learn it? That's the part that we need help with. What are some of the other programs, the remediation, the interventions? What are some of the programs that kids connect to? But part of it also is how do we start developing a culturally rich instructional program that all children can get connected to? Meaning when they do pick up a book to read, that in fact that story in the book, they can connect to it, not just for the academic, but also culturally. How does it tie back to what they're doing? And then the third part is how do you utilize your funding for the allowable expenses based off of how the state lets you spend money? How do you put that back into your people and your programs? So there's 3 areas there.
Understand. So what are we doing?
I can't hear you.
What are we doing as for support to the school here?
So right now, so this summer right now, number one, we're looking at your staffing.
Okay.
So you have 180 students in a pre-K through 8. So we're trying to staff to school appropriately, meaning, as others said, you have no gaps, meaning that you have high-quality teachers in every position. The second part of that is we have just recently established a district-wide curriculum council that has now met twice, meaning teachers are now taking the lead in curriculum review, curriculum selection, and curriculum implementation. So you'll see that over the course of the year, and your Snowden teachers are involved in that. And then the third part of that is principals meet with us tomorrow to start talking about next year, because believe it or not, folks, school starts in 60 days, not to make you nervous, but it's coming quick. And so we're starting to look at how we can utilize our fiscal resources to make sure that we have the appropriate programs in place. And along with that, we're starting to listen to what the state of North Carolina is saying, because State Superintendent Johnson just announced that there are certain programs that are going to be mandatory in all districts across the country, and that was just, I think, broken that last Friday maybe, so we're trying to get on top of that. So we're looking at all 3 right now.
Okay, appreciate that.
No problem.
I know in the community, it's great we have this community forum,
Yeah.
but once this one is over, will there be another one to follow up?
Well, exactly what I said at the very beginning of this. This should be a beginning, and let's get back together at September. Let's get back together in October. Maybe do it once every quarter, once every semester, but not just together just to talk. What is the plan to bring Snowden out of low performing? What's the plan to make sure no kid falls behind? What's the plan to make sure every teacher has the resources they need? But in short, this should be the beginning of many to come.
Okay. I always make a statement that sometimes your problem and your solution can be in the same room. Since we all here, is there a possibility we can hear from the principal and some of the teachers of what they see on a daily basis that can help everyone understand the issues?
Sure, absolutely.
Like right now?
I don't see a problem with that.
But
Yeah.
I want Mr. Lewis to go.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Lewis.
All right.
I'll invite the principal back.
Mr. Lewis?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. You don't like me, I'm already wrong. Let me just say I commend Mr. Cheeseman and the board for coming out and visiting the little town of Aurora. First of all, I heard there was a visit earlier or some type of meeting earlier, but I thank you for coming out and for hearing the people. For those of you who don't know, my name is Aaron Lewis. I'm the president of the Beaufort County NAACP here, trying to work for you and do the best I can. I'm also a local pastor in Little Washington of Spring Garden Missionary Baptist Church. Also as an 18-year, I believe, employee of Beaufort County Schools, working right there at Southside High School. I think I've helped you raise many of your children, and I see some here now. They're grown folk, and we're even at the raising some of the children's children. But let me just say, I'm not here as one of those, but I'm here as a citizen of Beaufort County, and I'm hoping that the board has heard the words of the people of this town. And my concern is for all of us, that we would work together. I do want to tap into, I did hear somebody say that there was a 5-year period, I believe, where there was no math teacher.
No, so let me correct that.
Is that right?
Over 5 years, they were intermittent, meaning that you may have had one or more math teachers in a 5-year period, but they weren't staying. So it's not like they were absent.
Okay, that's
but
right.
over 5 years, they were not consistently the same individual.
Okay.
And now this year, you will have a math teacher coming down.
Okay, just want to make sure what I was hearing. Also, I want to say, I heard somebody say that we didn't come to throw blame on anybody. Because actually, to be honest with you, we can all take some of the blame. All of us have some of it. I would like to ask for those people, and I want to commend y'all too. Just like you commended them for coming, I want to commend y'all too. If we could just see you at some of those board meetings. I've started going since January, since I've been elected as the president of the ECP of this county, and I don't see a lot of people there. And what I found is that a lot of the decisions, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the decisions that you're hearing today and that you're hearing are made at those meetings. So I believe, I need y'all to say so if I'm right, we need you at the meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
All right? It's good to meet when things are going wrong, but we need you at the meeting. I put a Facebook post out the other day in relations to people who hide in the background waiting for things to go wrong. But what needs to happen is for people to come out into the front and make sure it goes right. Rather than wait until it goes wrong and then fuss about it, let's fix it. Somebody, an elderly person told me one time, they said a stitch in time saves 9. So if we can get to the meetings and hear while they're making the decisions, then maybe some things can be curtailed and we wouldn't have to get to this point. So I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to challenge each one of you, if you would start coming to the meetings, don't let us be there by ourselves. I can't make them all, but as we say in the church, if you can't make them all, don't miss them all. Try to get to some. And even bring some of the children. We have to start training our children to help them to see why it's important to go to the meetings. Not only the board meetings, but the commissioners' meetings. We went to one, and I got you, bro. It was crowded up in that place when they started talking about people losing their jobs. So if we could all just work together, we'll find that things will go a little bit better. Not going to be perfect, but if we could just start working together, things will get better. All right? Can I challenge y'all to do that? All right. And one final thing. For all of us, one common thing that I've heard several times is that our kids are volunteering to go to Pamlico County. I kept asking myself, why? What is it that they have that we don't? Why is their system more attractive than ours? And if we can answer that question, maybe, as somebody said, we can stop the bleeding. Now, before I sit down, I need you to do one more thing for me, and I'm going to take my seat.
Sure.
Because some people came in late, if you could reiterate on the plan of action for Snowden, actually, so we can hear it clear, and then we won't have to take false information out and have meetings after the meetings and phone calls on the phone with false information.
And then we'll have Ms. Winley, your principal, come up, okay?
Okay.
So the initial commentary that we started says that Snowden will maintain its pre-K through 8 status here at Snowden Elementary School moving forward, that you're not going to move the middle school model. In consideration of that, you're looking at 3 programs inside the building of a pre-K, a K-5, and a 6A. So in short, the initial plan right now, most immediate courses of action, is to look at staffing needs, to look at resource needs, and to look at the funding formulas that come into this building, knowing that Snowden is already maxed out in 2 of those 3 funding sources at the greatest federal and state dollar that you can put into it. So with that, that's what we're most immediately doing. And so you're starting to see people be hired, as we said, a math teacher. I believe you have a new dean of students. So we're looking at what vacancies still exist and, of course, how to fill those positions.
Okay.
So we're looking at the academics. As I said, you've grown 5 straight years, but in small increments. And when I talk about not growing fast enough, I relate that to versus how many people are leaving. Mm-hmm. All right, so we would like us to grow more quickly, maybe keep those students here, and then just take that momentum and make Snowden the greatest it could be.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Appreciate
you're
it.
very welcome.
And while I'm here, for those of you who are here, I wasn't looking for this many people, but the NAACP decided to bring some snacks over there. So if you have a bottle of water, please don't get another one, because we weren't expecting this many folk, but we do have enough for at least a good 100 or so. So if you want a snack, a bottle, please feel free. Just take one. We don't have one for food later on at home. All right? Thank you.
Putting you on the spot, I'm sorry. That's okay.
Well, no, come here.
We did not tell her she would have to speak, so.
Well, that's at the request of...
Yeah. You're okay with it?
I am fine with it. First, I would like to say good evening to everyone. I am so pleased to see everyone out. It just does my heart good to let me know that everyone, we want the best for our children. So thank you again for coming out. I've been taking some notes as different ones have talked, and I want to take this time to maybe answer or shed some light on some of the questions that have been asked. One of the main questions was about students leaving and going to Pamlico School. Let me go back. I am Mrs. Winley. I'm the principal here. This is going on my 3rd year. So this was ending my 2nd year as principal here at SW Snowden. Now, I think the perception became the reality. People perceived based on things that had happened in the past, so they continued. Once they had their children going, then they just continued with them going. Now, to my knowledge, in my 2 years that I've been principal here at Snowden, there's only 3 kids that left to go to Pamlico. Now, everyone knows that this area is somewhat a transitory like area. We have a large population of elders that are foster parents. Now, the goal obviously is to reunite those foster kids with their mom, dad, etc. So yes, one minute you look at Snowden's enrollment, and it may look like we lost 10 kids. That's because they were reunited with their parents. And then the next couple of months, those foster parents get some more children So then you look at our enrollment, and we're back up to 186. That's been a pattern that I myself have noticed in the 2 years that I've been here. We will have 10 kids leaving at the end of this school year. 3 of those kids were adopted. 3 more kids basically, I don't want to say too much, but they'll be back with mom. Okay? And then here again, we have a couple of more that are going to another foster home. So I think the perception becomes, because of whatever happened back 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I think the perception became that because a few left and went to Pamlico, well, now every time there's some transitory stuff going on, they're going to Pamlico County. Okay? Like I said, in my 2 years, there's been 3. And I'm an honest person, so I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. I did talk to a parent, 2 parents. One said that all of this that's going on, that's keeping her from deciding that, okay, I can't deal with this limbo, you know. So I, even in my summative when I met with Mr. Cheeseman on Friday, I said, I'm just going to be glad when this is over with and settled, because then I can tell my parents for sure what is going to happen. She just gave me a thumbs up. Love you, dear. Okay. But tell them what has happened. And then since May 1st, I've been wrestling with this. This has been on my shoulders too. You know? I don't care what any of you think. These are my kids. I treat them the exact same way I would treat my own kids. I put a post on Facebook and I said, before I get out of my car, I say a little prayer to myself. Lord, help me to make sure the decisions that I make for these children will be the same decisions I make for my own child. And then also I said, well, some of you might think, yeah, but you probably wouldn't put your child in school suspension. Well, you're wrong. Because I put my child, I put my nieces, I put my nephews. Anybody over Southside High School can tell you, yes. You know, just because I believe that there is no right way to do wrong, and that I'm going to work with you, but at some point in time we have to address that. And I will address that. And up to this point so far, all the parents have embraced that sternness. You know, when Dr. Phipps met with me to let me know he was putting me as principal over here at S.W. Snowden, he said, Miss Winley, my middle school is in trouble. I need you to go there and, you know, get things straight. He said, now don't get me wrong, I don't want you to go there with guns blazing. And I said, you're exactly right. The discipline is at an all-time low. Our students are now learning what it takes to come to school, what it means to have high expectations, because that's what I expect. And someone made the statement, we didn't get this way in 5 years, and we're not going to get out of it in 2. But we are almost there. I said we are coming out of low performing, and we are. That middle school stepped up to the challenge. Yes, the 8th grade, little low, But that's okay. They still worked hard, stepped up to the challenge, and we're just going to do better. Okay? So that was all about the transitory that I wrote down. Some more things. That extracurricular was mentioned. We got the Beta Club established. That was brought back. We got SGA established. That's now going on. Math Club. Someone mentioned about the small staff. So with Math Club, Shanae Moore, and I think she's not going to mind me giving out her name. Shanae Moore, she didn't really get it to where she would like it to be, but I have no doubt it's going to be established and will continue. Okay. Mr. Rice, he does coding for elementary and middle school. Our robotics team, the issues with robotics for this year, the supplier or the vendor that's in charge of providing the practice mats and also the assistance to help practice, that did not work out. Now, granted, it didn't just happen to S.W. Snowden. That vendor shorthanded Chalkawinity Middle School and some other schools, okay? So, of course, we are looking at working with a new vendor. All right, so, yes, robotics did not go the way it should go this year. All right, but you live and you learn. Now we know we got to work with a different vendor. One of our new teachers, which we were so proud to get, Mrs. Ebron, she's so shy, but she did an outstanding job in English. And I think with your 7th graders, they were the ones that said that they wanted to participate in your journalism, correct? So that's going to be, journalism is going to be a lot more. I'm going way over my minutes, Amy. Oh, okay. Okay. So journalism. So we are getting the extracurriculars. Now there are some, we talked about resources, some of the resources that need to come. The gentleman, Mr. Adams, that spoke about his son, and I hope you don't mind, since you already mentioned your son's name, I'm going to mention his name. In the 7th, he's going to the 8th grade, Lewis Adams. Okay. Top-notch student. We are going to need to provide him with Math 1 next year. All right? So I had previously, knowing that, because I had stepped into the classroom to sort of help teach the math, so knowing how brilliant he is and knowing that he's going to need to be provided with Math 1, I talked with Mark Malett some, and we're looking at streaming Math 1 from the high school. So streaming so that he can be provided with that. And on that same note, if there are any other advanced classes, that is where we can tap into our Southside High School, our feeder school. We can create a situation where we can stream. The digital art program, that's on hold, but hopefully that will be coming. We just need money, because with the Title I money that the school gets, it funds 2 staff members. So after that $100,000 or $104,000, however it is, after that you take out for the 2 staff members. This past year, we were left with $1,300 and something. Now, this is Title I money, so that means you got to have some parent involvement. So after we did our parent involvement activities, we were left with 36 cents. 36 cents is not going to get me a reading coach. 36 cents is not going to give me a math coach. Okay? So those are some resources that we can pull into this school. All right? It will be a big help. Another point is that I have already reached out with the counselors at Southside High School. They're over the Beta Club over at Southside High School. And we have agreed that to provide those kids with their volunteer hours, they're going to come down and help do some after-school tutoring. Now, granted, transportation is still probably going to be an issue. but at least we're trying to make a start, and we're trying to cover the gaps that we have here at this school. Because my vision, you know, it may be simplistic the way that I'm going to state this, but my vision is for S.W. Snowden to be a school that students want to attend, parents want to send their students, and teachers want to teach. That's my vision for S.W. Snowden.
Okay, now, first thing I want you all to give yourselves a hand for coming out tonight. I bet Miss Winley is just, I know Miss Winley is excited to see all you here and would like to see your faces again over the summer and in the fall to help her get these programs going. So thank you, Miss Winley. If there are no more comments, I want to also thank the people that did step forward, because coming to the microphone and speaking is a very courageous act. And a couple of you have missed your calling if you're not pastors, because you did a great job of getting the crowd. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the pastors that came forward, because as we find in all the schools, Beaufort County is a faith-based county. That may not be popular in some school systems, but we need our churches. We need our churches to participate. Our pastors get a message out quicker than the school system can. So if you are involved in a church, whether it's Washington, Chocowinity, or Aurora, I ask you as church members and pastors to keep getting the message out of what's going on in this school, because I know kids don't always take their notes home and share them with mom and dad. I know a lot of them say they didn't know there was a PTA meeting, they didn't know there was a meeting, so it's up to you as a community, when your child comes in the door, to ask them, what was their day like? What did they learn? What did they need to do differently? Is there a meeting that I need to know about? Is there a teacher that I need to talk to? Because they're not always going to volunteer that information to you. You have to ask those hard questions. And I think if you're a parent, you know whether or not they're dodging that question or not. If there are no other comments, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Cheeseman. And it's 8 o'clock, so I thank you all for staying here for 2 hours. I know you're hungry. I don't know that Mr. Lewis can feed us dinner, but he can give you a little snack. But thank you again, and I hope to see you all again at the next forum, because there will be a next forum. Okay? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you very much for being here tonight. And again, as superintendent of Beaufort County Schools, I'm just so impressed, so humbled, and actually so delighted to be a part of this school system. Specifically, as demonstrated 3 Saturdays ago, when I learned of a community meeting, I came to that meeting. And so if you're bringing people together, I welcome the invitation to be an active listener, an active participant, and someone who can put some of those thoughts into action. So thank you very much for being here this evening. Thank you to Randy Walker for providing the microphone and the taping. Thank you for our media being here, but more importantly, thank you for you being here. Have safe travels. Thank you.